Hello, hello, hello. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to What's the Word? Bit of an abrupt kind of start. I don't know how Warner cues it really nicely. I don't know how he does it. But anyway, if you're new here, if you're not new here, it's good to have you joining us. This is What's the Word? We do this every single Sunday where we talk about Jesus, God, Bible, all that good stuff. Answer your questions, talk about topics you want to talk about, whatever it is. So if you are here, this is your first time, welcome. If you don't know who we are, what this is all about, I'm Eamon, and this is my co-host for this evening, Taiwo. Hello, Taiwo. Welcome to the podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone.
Nice. You
It's
see,
a
that's
pleasure to
nice.
be on.
That's
Yeah.
Warner does that every single week. He does the good evening,
Oh,
good morning,
really?
good night. Yeah.
There,
So if
there
you
you go.
don't know, basically Warner, my usual co-host, is away. He's basically he's gone to he's traveling down to Cardiff. So
Moving on to
that's
big
why
stuff, right?
he's doing the big stuff. You know, he's
Yeah.
teaching at the Bible school. You know, top dog. He's teaching on a better level than the podcast now. He's been promoted. But so we have Taiwo taking over. We're in
That's
capable
good.
hands, folks. Capable hands. He's been on before, and it was great last time. So I thought, who better to ask to come on than Taiwo?
It's a pleasure, honestly. It is.
Nice, nice,
I'm liking it. I'm liking it. Thank you.
good. Well, maybe maybe you can start your own podcast.
You're making me blush a little bit now.
Well, if it
Like,
is your first
I'm
time,
hot.
if it is your first time, or it's not your first time, and you're watching live, it'd be good to sort of kind of see who's here. We like to see who's here. It just helps when you're talking to a screen that you can sort of see who's listening, who's around. So if you are here, say hello in the comments. Obviously, I can see Marilyn. We can see Teriro's here as well. Shout out to Teriro. What do you mean? Can you not see
I
her on
know.
the
It's like, oh.
She says, it's good to have you here, Teriro. And if
Everyone else doesn't matter.
to you, that maybe not to me, to you.
I'm joking.
But,
I'm joking.
to everybody else, so if you could like, share, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, that really helps get What's the Word out there. More people see it, more people can tune in, more people can get informed, can hear what God's doing, etc., which is always good. If you're listening later on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any other podcast platform that there is out there, please give us a share, give us a like or a 5-star review. Well, you can put any star you want, but for me, I would say it's a 5-star podcast. Unbiased opinion, obviously.
I would agree. It's unbiased.
There we go.
I agree.
Yeah.
Agree.
Also, kind of like subscribe and like, so you can always stay caught up with what's going on. And as always, whatever you're watching on, whatever you're listening on, if there's a topic you want us to talk about, if there is a question you want answered, maybe something you don't know, maybe something you do know, you just want our opinion on, maybe it's a book of the Bible that you don't understand, or a character you're like, what's all this about, or a story, please let us know. Put it in the comments, send us a message, whatever's easiest, because we obviously want to talk about what you guys want to talk about and everything like that. So yeah, let us know, because we'd love to hear from you, and we love to talk what you want to talk about, not just waffle on about things that we like to talk about. But anyway, we'll start how we always start. Taiwo, tell the people, on a scale of 1 to 10, how was your week? Any highlights? What's been going on?
I would say a solid 7.5. To my
That's a
my
good week.
It's not too bad. I've started a new role, so like some people know already, new job. Way whoop, whoop. So it's good. It's exciting. Nice. Really good. Different from what not different as such. It's still the same sort of data analysis or information analyst role, but in terms of the company, it's different company. So the pace is slightly different. But it's good. Meeting new people.
Nice.
Getting to know a little bit of different systems as well, which is always good. Learning curve. So yeah, I'd say it's a good 7.5.
Nice.
So yeah, not bad. How was yours? I know. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Decent. What companies? What did they do?
Oh, that's a secret if I tell you.
Oh, you want
Nah,
to like
nah.
MI5 or something?
Actually, I actually almost got a job with is it HGAQ, whatever they're called, similar to MI5 one time.
Really?
Yeah, I almost got a job once. The interview or the filling out the form really scared me because they're asking loads of questions about
Oh, right.
yourself, your family, and extended family. I actually thought it was a scam at one point. So I just thought,
Oh,
it's
really?
like, yeah, I'm not, I'm not doing that anymore. So I just literally just stopped the whole application process. But yeah, I do work for National Grid. So for those who
National
don't
Grid.
know or may know National Grid, we are energy supply. Well, we supply gas and electricity, so the raw gas and raw electricity to all the major suppliers, and they now go ahead and sell it on to clients and customers. But
Wow.
obviously they do whatever they need to do at the back
Yeah,
scene.
yeah.
But I work with if you're on the major supplier, if you want to call it that. So yeah, it's good. But I'm a data analyst, so I don't know anything about gas and electricity.
Okay, so I can't blame you for the rising prices in
No,
gas and
no, you
electric.
can't. I
Right,
have no
okay,
idea what's
okay.
going on.
Sorry, guys. All you thinking that you could blame Taiwo, you can't. He's just a data analyst.
I don't even know if I get a discount. I'm meant to get a discount, so I don't even know what's going on. So it'd be good to get a massive discount, like 90% off or something like that.
Yeah. Decent. That's not bad. Not
Yeah.
bad. Well,
Yeah, but how's your week anyway?
good, mate. Good. I'll give it a solid 10. Good solid 10.
Oh, okay.
Because I mean, nothing's bad, nothing's gone wrong. It's just a good solid week. Do you know what I mean? And like same as you, I mean, this was like third, fourth week in this new job that I've got. So it's the same kind of thing, meeting the people, getting used to everything, that kind of thing. It's kind of it's like the honeymoon period, isn't it, of a new job?
Of course.
Where you're kind of like, oh, this is fun, and everyone's like, if you get something wrong, they're not really that bothered because like, oh, you're new and all this kind of stuff, and you're just learning and
best time in the company.
And then you get 6 months down the line and you do something wrong, and it's all like, oh, okay, hell makes loose. Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's been a good week. I'm going to London on Thursday. I managed to secure a meeting with some people from the Church of England. So I went to Westminster. I had to buy a whole new outfit and everything because I was like, I can't go in like my corduroy, like
gold your hood, your JW hood.
Yeah, I can't go in my casual kind of nice wear. So I was like, I've got to go and get a proper shirt. So I went to Next, proper shirt. And we went to a few shops actually. Yeah, me and Anna went because I was just like, I don't know what to do, and she was like, all right. She helped me out. So shout out to Anna, but I was lost. I was like, what the heck am I supposed to wear?
I just hope she's not like my wife.
Pardon?
In terms of when you go shopping,
why?
Let's just say there's nothing that I buy that's good enough.
Oh.
I'm in trouble. I know.
Yeah, that was going to get you in trouble. Like, good luck tonight, mate, when this is done. No, but to be fair, no, go on.
No, I'm just saying. You
want to save yourself? You want to,
well, she's got good taste. I'm not saying that she doesn't got good taste. No, I'm serious. It's more so my taste that it's like she doesn't like. Okay. Thanks for putting that up there.
The world's gonna see.
I know. I'm in trouble.
The thing is, though, like I'm like a hoodie and jeans type of guy. I like a good hoodie, just a t-shirt, hoodie, jeans, some trainers. That's me happy that. Whereas like with Anna, I mean, she took me to this shop Uniqlo, and it's kind of like changed my life. So all guys out there, go to Uniqlo because it's cheap, it's stylish stuff, and you can't really go wrong with it. It's just, I don't know. It's just a good shop. I do like Uniqlo now. So shout out to all the guys out there who are struggling. Uniqlo, it'll be your friend. Okay. Like £12 t-shirts, good quality. They fit nicely. They feel good. And apparently like it's all like eco-friendly and stuff like that. They probably care about the environment. And so it's a win-win for everybody. Uniqlo. There you go. That's a little tip for you guys.
Are they paying commission to say that?
No, but if they want to sponsor the podcast, this is What's the Word, brought to you by Uniqlo. That would be fantastic.
That'd be good, yeah.
No. Yeah, like maybe like a little. Do you know when the Bible verses come up at the bottom of the screen? Maybe we can have like powered by Uniqlo or something like that. Do you know what I mean? Do you like sports do? They just sort of put adverts on everything. I've said that. We said that since day one. Since day one, me and Warner have said we would love to get sponsored by. Like just so every time we mention a product, we would just be like, if you want to sponsor us, let us know. So we tried Apple. We went big at the start. Obviously, they didn't sponsor What's the Word. But,
well, I wonder why.
We'll get something. We'll get some. Anyone out there who wants to sponsor us, hit us up. We'll do it cheap.
Yeah, I don't know about Apple though, but yeah.
Oh no! For those out there, just kind of put a bit of context. Tyrell hates Apple.
I don't. I just dislike the way of doing things. That's all. I don't hate them. I just don't like them.
Well, let's just say this. I'm on a MacBook now. I've got AirPods in, and I'm using an iPhone for my notes tonight. So I'm an Apple fan, and that's why Android. I look so crisp. I look really crisp and clear and nice because Apple's made me look nice. And that's all I'm going to say. So, Apple, if you want to sponsor me personally, not Tyrell, but me personally.
You know what's funny? Ironically, they may say, you know what, let's sponsor Ty and let's see if you actually like Apple products.
Wow. I'd be fuming if we did. I'd be fuming if we did that.
It's like, let's go get that guy that doesn't like Apple. Let's go and get him.
I'd be really, really annoyed.
Because it'll be a great advocate afterwards, isn't it? Just like Paul in the scripture, isn't it? When he became persecuting the Christians, and all of a sudden he became a great advocate. So you never know.
You never. True. There you go. See, I like that link though. I do like that link.
There you go. See, reverse psychology.
Well, Marin says maybe send the proposed sponsors links to What's the Word. Good idea. That's going to be my evening tonight. Just DMing. Then he'll give it to his wife. So Tyrell, mate, you're not even going to get to use your Apple products.
That's the thing. They're
going to get passed right to you, wife. I love that. I respect that. I do respect that. That'd be a good husband. That would be, getting the Apple products for the free Apple products to your wife. Mm-hmm. But let's jump into what we're talking about today. So, I mean, as you can probably see from the title of the podcast this evening, we're going to be looking at Jesus is God, or Jesus as Amen. God, whatever I put. And essentially, I've been thinking a lot about this, and this is kind of like a new series, a new mini series. I don't really know what we're going to call it yet, but essentially, I've been thinking about Jesus and how the Bible gives Jesus, a bunch of titles, a bunch of names. Us as Christians do as well, and they put a bunch of things on what Jesus is, and all of these things point to the fact that Jesus is enough. That Jesus is enough for our salvation. Jesus is enough for the restoration of all things. All that great stuff. And ultimately, as you kind of read through the Bible, you start to see these little things sort of come out, that Jesus is Lord, that Jesus is King, that he is that he's provider, he's a shepherd, that he's a healer, that he's God, and all these different things. And ultimately, all of these things kind of point us to the fact, all these things can kind of teach us things about who Jesus is, but teaches that the fact that Jesus is enough for us, that we don't need to add anything on to what Jesus has done, or Jesus doesn't need to do anything extra in order to for us to get salvation or whatever else. That the fact that just him and himself, that he is enough. So we want to kind of explore this. So we want to explore this a little bit. So we want to look at the fact that what it means that Jesus is King. What does it mean that Jesus is God? What does it mean that Jesus is a man? What does it mean that Jesus is the shepherd, or whatever else? Whatever else is there. We want to kind of talk about that. Dig deep, kind of see what it means for the wider picture, see what the Bible says, see what it means for us, all that great stuff. So we're kind of kicking it off today with Jesus is God. And I think that's probably the best one to start with, because
definitely
it's probably the most important. I don't know. But and we'll kind of touch on it each week, whether that is literally for the next couple of weeks, that's what we're going to be doing exclusively, or whether that is kind of just dotted in between, a few other topics or a few other things that are going on. Who knows? We'll see what happens, but we're starting it today. And this is really, really important, because ultimately, just to frame this a little bit, there are certain kind of faith groups, and there are certain people, and there are certain non-Christians and whatever else, and everyone has an opinion on Jesus. Everyone has an opinion on who Jesus is. It's pretty much like it's a fact that a man named Jesus walked around 2,000 years ago, and he caused a bit of a stir, or whatever you want to call it. in modern day Israel. Like, it's a fact. It's most. I think very few scholars would argue the fact that a man named Jesus existed nearly 2,000 years ago, or however long ago it was, and that he walked around and he taught and he claimed to heal the sick and all these kind of things. So the question really is not if does Jesus exist, yes or no, but the question is, who is Jesus? What's he about? Like, is he God, who was a Christian say, or is he just a prophet, who's some faith groups say, or is he just a good teacher, or is he just a good man, or is he just a good philosopher, or whatever else? And that's why it's really important for us to kind of dig deep into this and to kind of touch on this. And there's many places that we could go here. There's loads of places we can go. We can kind of go straight to Genesis and look at, in the beginning, God, and what that Hebrew of God means. And does it mean a plurality? Does it mean singular, or whatever else? Or later on in Genesis, it says, let us make man in our own image. Who's he talking to? He says, let us make man. Do you know, we can look at all that, and we can sort of take a journey around the Old Testament and the New Testament. And we could do that. And that would be perfectly valid, and that'd be great. And I'm sure at some point we will do a really deep dive into that. But I think just for today, what I really want to sort of home in on is kind of what Jesus said himself specifically, and how that affected, and how the Pharisees and how the Jewish people and things like that interpreted that, and kind of dispel really some myths that Jesus kind of never claims to be God, or never mentions the fact that he's God, or never points to the fact that he's God, that he just says that he's a normal man, or he's just a servant, or whatever else. We kind of just want to sort of help, using the words of Jesus, kind of just throw those away a little bit. So to start us off, this is not really the words of Jesus, but it's all going to come clear. The order may look a bit weird, but just bear with me. It makes sense in my head. So we'll kick off.
You do make sense. Don't worry.
Thanks, mate. And if I don't make sense, Ty will make sense of what I'm trying to say.
Well, let's hope so.
Well, to jump right in, Tyrell, do you want to read this?
Yeah. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning.
Great. So what we see here is this is the start of the book of John. This is the first and second verse of the book of John. And ultimately it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Yeah. So like, you think like, what the heck is the Word? It's not like a floating Bible or something like that. Because it wasn't just that floating around in the beginning, but it says, it says there in that verse 2, in that last sentence, it says, he was with God in the beginning. So it tells us something very interesting about what the Word is, that it's a person, it's somebody. And then as we go to verse 14 of John chapter 1, we see that the Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. And then it goes on a little bit. But the Word became flesh. So it tells us something very interesting when we kick off. And that is that the Word that's being, that John's sort of talking about here is Jesus, that it is this man, Jesus. So before we even get into anything, he makes two big statements about who Jesus is and who this Word is. That he is, number one, God, because the Word was God, and number two, that he has always existed, that he has no beginning, has no end, that he has always existed because he was with God in the beginning. And I don't know, like in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and then the Word was God, and he was with God in the beginning. I don't know, it almost seems like he's trying to emphasize, like he says, the Word was with God, and then in that last sentence, he was with God in the beginning. Like he was almost he's telling you twice that the Word, that Jesus was with God in the beginning, that he was with God. So ultimately, he's telling us something here. He's trying to emphasize the point that this man, Jesus, this person who they're going to be talking about is someone who, number one, is God, and he has always existed. And what he's trying to do is he's trying to sort of make you come into this book and make you come when you're reading the book of John. He's making you come into it with the lens and the perspective of this person I'm writing about, this person I'm sharing stories of, or anything like that. This person is God. That this is not just a normal man. This is not just a philosopher. This is not just a good teacher or anything like that. That this person that I am referring to, that this person that I'm going to be writing about in these 22 or so chapters is God, and that he is God, and that he was with God in the beginning because he's always existed. Yes, Tyrell, anything you want to add or? emphasize or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, what for me, what that beginning of the chapter 1, in the beginning was the word sort of emphasizes, or almost, if you want, puts together, is the Trinity itself. So,
Yeah.
because if you actually, I know the doctrine of the Trinity is one of those crazy, if I can use the word crazy there, doctrine that is sometimes difficult to understand. I personally believe that it's difficult to understand because we as human beings are finite, and our understanding, we can never truly know God, because if God chooses to reveal himself in the way that God sees fit, then who are we to sort of challenge that? But it's just the idea that there's three persons, three distinct persons in the being of God, and that second person, the God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, the second in the Trinity is Jesus Christ himself. And that sort of, if you want, it sets it out that it's God, or Jesus has always been in the beginning. There's no out, Jesus was not created, because again, that's one of the other faith groups are saying that Jesus became created or being when he became a human being. No, he didn't become. He was always God. And I like what Ephesians 2, and I know I'm sort of jumping ahead a little bit, but Ephesians talks about Jesus humbling himself, even though he was God. He didn't grapple with being God itself. So I like that. It's like Jesus has always been. There's no two ways about it. Don't even bring any other theology. And anyone that's teaching anything else, let's throw stones at that person, because Jesus, like you said in your teaching, is like the highest level that you can get. You can't go above who Jesus is, and being God is who he is. He is God, and he's always been there in the beginning. So you can't change that, and I like that.
Exactly.
So it just summarizes everything like that, which is good.
And I think the thing, in the beginning, it's not his beginning or God's beginning, it's our beginning as human beings, as the universe, the earth, whatever's involved, at the cosmos, the galaxy, that's all included in the beginning, that he has always existed. And it's one of those things where it's like what you were saying, as humans and our kind of rational brains and the way we think, we can't comprehend how the Trinity works. We can't comprehend how living outside of time works and things like that. So when we're talking about this, it's difficult to put it in language to make it really simple for us to understand the fact that there is this man Jesus, that he has always lived and he's always been, and that they're fully God and fully man, and that he was there before the beginning. But then if there's a beginning and there's something before that, is that the beginning? Like, it's really difficult to understand. But ultimately, what we see here, what we see from this verse, is the fact that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning, and that he's referring to Jesus. He's making these two statements. So before you dive into anything, you can see the fact that he is, number one, he is God, and number two, that he has always existed, that he just is. It's just there. And ultimately, as you kind of read through John, and most of what I'll be looking at is in the book of John, because he really highlights this a lot, and you can see why he's come to this conclusion of who Jesus is right here at the start, based on what he's written later on, because that's all based on what Jesus says. So kind of dive in a little bit further in John chapter 17. And this is sort of towards the end of Jesus' life. This is all like towards the end of just before he's just about to die and everything like that. And he's praying, and he says this. He says, "And now, Father, glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began." So we see again what's happening here. Is that Jesus is speaking, and Jesus is praying, and he's not saying, "Oh Lord, I can't wait to get to your presence because it's going to be great," or "I've heard loads about it," or it sounds like a wonderful place to be. He's saying, "Lord, take me back to where I was before. Take me back to the glory I had with you before the world began." And you can see how in John chapter 1 he gets to this conclusion that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. You can see how he gets to that conclusion that the word Jesus was there in the beginning, because he's using this language That's this divine language, this beautiful prayer that he says. You know, he's like he's saying, take me back to this glory I had with you before the world began. It tells us that his rightful place was with God in the heavenly realms or wherever sort of he is, and that he came down in the form of a man and died for us and everything like that. And he's as he was resurrected and taken back up to that place and given the position of honor and in the highest place and everything like that. But ultimately, it shows us the fact that he was there before. He was there before all things. He was there before the earth. He was there before Abraham. He was there before Noah. He was there before Adam and Eve, before the earth, before whatever was created, that he was there with God and he had this glory with God in the beginning. I think it's just such like a beautiful thing that can kind of just get overlooked or can kind of just get passed by, really. He's just so like but if you just stop to think about what he's saying here, he's speaking of the fact that his home, that his place, that where he came from was with the Father, you know, in the presence with the glory I had with you in the world began. My Father, it's beautiful. Anything you want to touch on?
It is good. No, it's good what you're saying, and I completely agree with a lot of what you said. It's one of those that it's almost like you said, him going back home in that scenario. You know, it's like who he was and who he is. He doesn't change. But I like the whole book of John itself, and I know that the whole Bible is about God and Jesus. You can find Jesus in pretty much every or most of all the chapters in the Bible. But this, if you want to rename the book of John, they just name it the book of Jesus, literally, because the whole story of John from the beginning, it always gives you a short synopsis of who he's going to be talking about. So you can't even have a debate about, okay, this is talking about something else or someone else. This is the book of Jesus. Take it or leave it, that kind of thing, or the life about Jesus itself. So I like that, and like you're saying, it's just who he was, you know, going back to who he was in terms of going back to the Father, glorify me. It's good. I like that.
I think it's really interesting. I like to think that, you know, when he was writing the book of John, that he kind of collected all this evidence, collected all these stories and the things that Jesus said. He collected all together, and then he read it and said, okay, what's my opening going to be to this? And then he looks at that and goes, well, look, here's what he says here, here, and here. So I'm going to start with, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word, like based on what he's saying. And we see how he's kind of been influenced by what Jesus has said in terms of, you know, take me, glorify me in the presence I had with you, the glory before the world began. So he's already made a conclusion that Jesus was there in the beginning, that Jesus was there before the world. So then he's influenced by that. And you can see that in terms of John chapter 1, verse 1, where it says, in the beginning was the Word, etc., etc. And you see how he's influenced by that. You see how he's used that evidence to kind of come to this conclusion right at the start of the book of John. And we see this in a little bit more, taken a little bit further, really, in Revelation chapter 22, and this is right at the end, and this is where he kind of makes this statement saying that he's going to be coming soon, and I think he makes it 3 or 4 times actually in this passage. It's worth reading. He says, "Look, I'm coming soon." Basically, prepare yourself. But he says this. He says, "I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last, the beginning and the end." And you see. What he does is and this is Jesus speaking, by the way, and he's taking what he said in John even further. So in John, he says, in John chapter 17, he says, glorify me in your presence with the glory I had with you before the world began. So it's past tense. He's like saying, take me back to where he was. But now he's saying, I'm the beginning and the end. That he's basically bookending everything and just saying, I am.
I am God.
I am. That's as simple as that. And we're going to look at that I am in just a little bit, but it's really important to understand what that the little I am, that he's not saying that I was or I had or I did
or I became
I became all these kind of things. He's saying just I am, that he is just is. And again, it's really weird to kind of put human language on this, put English into this, and I'm no linguistics expert, as you can probably tell, that I just sort of say it how I think it. And he just is, that he is the first and the last, the beginning and the end, that he doesn't have a start, he doesn't have an end, but that he is the beginning and the end, that he just always is, that he exists And you can see how he deliberately makes these statements to point to the fact that he is God. One of the things that you often see, especially from people when they talk about Jesus, whether that is certain faith groups or whether that's atheists or whatever else, they say Jesus never says, "I am God, worship me."
Yeah.
And he never says that. And people want a specific verse where Jesus says, "I am God, worship me." But ultimately, when I'm reading Jesus, all I'm seeing is him pointing to the fact that he is God, that he exists, that he always existed. And if somebody has always existed, that he is the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last, like ultimately there is something different about that person if they're making these statements about themselves. It's not just an ordinary person because I had a beginning. I'm gonna die at some point. My human life is going to be encapsulated in however many years, hopefully over 100, because I want to get to 100. Is a personal goal of mine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good.
I want it. But like ultimately, I was born at some point. I was born in 1997, and at some point I'll die, and that's my life. Whereas ultimately, Jesus is saying, "I am the beginning. I am the end." He just says, "I am," that he just is, that he's always existed. And he's taking this, what he's saying in John, further, not just to kind of go glorify me before the world began, but just saying I'm the end as well. So if you want to be pedantic about it, don't, because I'm just the bookends of all things.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
And for me, what's jumping out at me is, if you sit down sometimes for job interviews, they ask you, "Tell me a bit about yourself." And normally, what you would do is you just state, "Oh, my name is Taiwo. I'm a data analyst, and I've been doing this for however long I've been doing it for." And it's almost like you have to introduce yourself, and it's almost like it's not necessarily introducing himself. He's just talking about himself. I am the Alpha and the Omega. It's like, okay, it's like almost like if the queen is speaking about herself, it's like, I'm the queen. She doesn't have to say I became a queen. It's like, this is who I am, royalty. And in that same capacity, God is like, Jesus is like, listen, I am God. Take your leave it. Before me, there was nothing. After me, there's nothing. There's nothing. It's just like wherever you go, turn around 360 degree. There's nothing before, after, outside, on the. I am who I am, and everything in between, and everything outside of that. I existed before you can even think about it. Eternity is my play pen, so to speak. Which is why I was like, wow, okay. I can't argue with that. There's no, you can't debate with that. You can't.
Exactly. That's the exact thing, is the fact that he's literally making these grand statements about himself, and he's saying, this is it. And you, as a reader, you can't argue, you can't be pedantic about it. Like you're reading that, and you're going, hang on a sec. Like,
if you're going to argue, prove it. How can you prove it?
Like, it's true. It's just true. He's making these statements about himself, and he's pointing to the fact that he isn't just a man who was born 2,000 years ago and a good teacher or a prophet or a messenger or someone who became God or someone who was given the states, whatever else, that he just is, that he's always existed. And he makes these grand statements, but we start to see how in the book of John, these statements actually, how the Jews and how the kind of Pharisees interpret what he's saying here. And there's a couple of instances, and the first one's in John chapter 8, and I cut a large chunk out because there's a lot of meat around this. So I just you'll understand what it says. But he says, this is Jesus speaking. He says, "Your father Abraham rejoiced that he would see my day, and he saw it and was glad. So the Jews said to him, 'You are not 50 years old, and you have seen Abraham?'" They're just mocking him at this point. And Jesus says, "Very truly, I tell them." Jesus said to them, "Truly, truly, I say to you, before Abraham was, I am." And at this point, they picked up stones to stone him, but Jesus hid himself, slipping away from the temple courts. But you see this statement that he's saying, Abraham saw my day. Abraham saw the coming day of salvation. Abraham saw the coming day the Messiah would come and save all of mankind, and he rejoiced and was glad. And they're saying to him, hang on a sec, you're not even 50. You're like 30. You're a carpenter. What are you talking about? Behave yourself, essentially. And Jesus says, before Abraham was, I am. And we start to see that I am come back. And ultimately, what he's trying to say is and Abraham was like revered by the Jews, and he was sort of held in really high regard and status. because of who he was and his character, and he was declared righteous and all these amazing things. And then obviously he was literally the father of the whole of the Israelites. And he was, this is thousands of years after Abraham. And ultimately he's saying, before Abraham was, I am. So he puts a start date and an end date on Abraham. He says Abraham was born at some point. He didn't exist previously, and he was born and he lived and he died. Bang, right there in the middle of time. He says, I am. It's that statement again from Revelation to kind of say, I just am. I just exist. There's no beginning, there's no end, there's no kind of birth, and this is where I didn't exist previously to this, and now I do. It's just that I am. And ultimately, we see how this statement in itself affected the Jews, because it says, and they picked up stones to stone him. But Jesus hid himself, slipping away in the temple courts. That ultimately they understood what he was saying. They got it. Like they understood that he was basically saying that he was God, that he was pointing to his divinity and saying that he's always existed. They understood this, to the fact that they were going to stone him because it's blasphemy. You can't sit around saying you're God. It's in the law where it says that you can't do that, and it's blasphemy and you deserve to be stoned. He picked up stones, and to be fair to them, if anyone normal said that, they were right to do that because of what was said in the law. But the fact is that Jesus is saying that because he's pointing to the fact that he is God, that he is divine, that he has always existed. And you start to see again how he picks up on this. So when he's writing 1 John verse 1, he's taking these statements, he's taking these things that Jesus said, and he's putting it in. So you read it with the lens of the fact that Jesus is God,
saying he is God.
Anything you want to add?
And if we go back to John chapter 5, one of the other scriptures where before the John 8 that you read, where Jesus healed the guy at the pool. And when you read from verse 15, in fact, even if you read from let's go 16, it says, and this is why, verse 15, and the man went away and told the Jews that it was Jesus who had healed him, and this was why the Jews were persecuting Jesus, because he was doing these things on the Sabbath. But Jesus answered them, my Father is working until now, and I am working. Verse 18, this is why the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him, because not only was he breaking the Sabbath, but he was even calling God his own Father, making himself equal with God. And you're like, wow, okay. These people understood the message of what Jesus was saying. And if this is not, you can't just pick up a stone and throw a stone at anyone just because they say, I am, who God is. But they understood that Jesus was not just making a random statement. He was making himself the same as God, and that was pure blasphemy in their eyes. And they thought, hey, this guy's blasphemous, let's kill him, let's do what let's show him that he's not God. But they understood it. And if that's not clear to us people, and saying Jesus is saying that I am God, then I really don't know what else could be clear. Because people who understood it were reacting, but they're reacting in a negative way to say, no, you can't. How can you say that kind of statement? It's so disgusting kind of thing. It's like they understood it, they got it.
Exactly. And that's exactly right. He's making these statements, and he's making these things, and like for me, when I'm reading out, my Father is always at work to this very day, and I too am working. Like if I just read that, I'm like, what's he like? He's just saying
nothing. That I'm like my Father.
It's a normal statement. But like these people, the Jewish people and the Pharisees, they understood the scriptures. They understood what was going on here. So they interpreted that to kind of say that, okay, this guy is saying that he's equal with God. This guy is pointing to the fact that he is equal with God, that he is divine, that he's part of this Trinity and whatever else. That is, and ultimately that is a big statement to make. Ultimately Jesus backs it up. Like he does back it up in everything that he does, in the healings, in the signs, miracles, and wonders, in the teaching that he does, in the wisdom, everything that he does. he backs it up. But ultimately, they understood it, and they understood it to be exactly what you said. That they understood it to that he was saying that he was God, and that they picked up these stones to stone him.
And he was acting like God.
Yeah.
Because he was working on the Sabbath day, because you're meant to rest on the Sabbath day. It's like, who are you to be working on the Sabbath day as well?
Yeah.
So you're not just doing something wrong, you're also
Yeah.
on top of that, you're blaspheming and saying, hey, look at me, guys, I am God. It's like, whoa,
Yeah.
okay. We need to deal with you in that scenario. So yeah,
Exactly.
it's,
And we even see this again. This is the last one which we'll go through. It's in John chapter 10, verse 25 to 32. It says, Jesus answered, I did tell you, but you did not believe. The works I do in my Father's name testify about me, but you do not believe me because you are not my sheep. My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, they follow me, and I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one shall snatch them out of my hand. My Father who has given them to me is greater than all. No one can snatch them out of my Father's hand. I and the Father are one. Yeah. And again, his Jewish opponents picked up stones to stone him, but Jesus said to them, I have shown you many good works from the Father. For which of these do you stone me? He says, we are not stoning you for any good work, they replied, but for blasphemy, because you, a mere man, claim to be God. So what we see here is the exact same thing take place as what we've seen previously, is that he's making these statements. He's saying that he's saying here, he says, my sheep follow my voice. I know them, they follow me, and I give them eternal life.
Yeah.
I give them eternal life. That's like, okay, strike one.
Who are you? Yeah. Who are you?
And then he says, I and the Father are one. He's talking again about this union, this closeness of the Trinity, that the three persons in one, all this kind of stuff. And he says, what do you stone me for? He's like, tell me what the root of the issue is. What's the problem that you have? And they say it's nothing to do with your good works. It's got nothing to do with your personality. It's got nothing to do with where you're from. It's got nothing to do with anything else other than the fact that you are blaspheming, that you are a mere man and you are claiming to be God. They've said it clearly, like the Pharisees and the Jewish people. They've told him clearly. They've told. When we're reading this, it clearly shows us the fact that Jesus was making statements to claim that he was God, making statements to say that, look, he's pointing to his divinity. He's pointing to the fact that he's God, that he's blaspheming. And ultimately, the Jewish people and the Pharisees, they understood what he was saying. They weren't silly. They were very intelligent people. They knew the scriptures. They knew what was going on. And they were like, hang on a sec. You can't say that. And look, even says it, like even in that last bit, but you, a mere man. They just see him as just a normal man, but he's claiming to be God. And we start to see how Jesus makes these statements, that Jesus says these things in order to the point to the fact that he is God, point to the fact that he is divine. And ultimately, we see how in John chapter 1, if you read right at the start, in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, he was with God in the beginning. And if you read the rest of that, like kind of like first opening passage, you'll see loads of like different things in there. But ultimately, we see how all this evidence and all these things that Jesus said has pointed to the fact that when he's writing this at the start, he's seen that Jesus is fully God, that he's not just a man, not just a teacher, not a prophet, not just a good philosopher or someone who was granted the status of God, that he is God, that he always has been God, that he just is, he just exists. He's the beginning and the end, the first and the last, all these kind of things. And ultimately, the book of John is filled with these kind of statements. I'm the way, the truth, and life. No one comes to the Father. And you see these statements again and again and again, and all he's doing is pointing to the fact that he is God. He's pointing to the fact that he is divine, and he's pointing to the fact that he's always existed, that he was there in the beginning. And then so we see how from these evidence and things like that, you start to see like Paul in the epistles, he starts to say that all things are made through him, that all things are made for him, that he holds all things together. That the Philippians, which you mentioned earlier, where he did not count equality as something to be grasped, but humbled himself and came in the form of a servant and everything. Like, you start to see how the conclusions that we have been drawn later on have all stemmed from not just someone just going, oh, this guy healed a few people, maybe he is God, but it stems from the fact that Jesus in himself, a bunch of other evidence as well, but the fact that Jesus himself makes these statements to claim that he is God.
Yeah,
It's great. Anything you want
it's amazing.
to add?
It's amazing. I mean, for me, I suppose it's almost like a summary, if I want to call it that. And for us as believers and Christians, it's because we believe in Jesus, we should have all confidence and all hope that we're not believing in just a mere human being, a mere prophet. I mean, the theme throughout the whole meeting today, it's like God has got your best interest at heart. He's gonna, he wants to look after you. He wants you to come closer to him. And like you said in your teaching as well, when you're preaching, he came down to us. We didn't have to go up. It's like, I know that you can't afford to even come close to the standard that I want. So I will be that standard and come down to you. And we need to, there's great hope and confidence in, you know what? I'm not believing in just average or just about good enough. No, I am believing in the one who created the whole world. I'm believing in God himself. My faith is in Jesus. So we should walk in that confidence. We should walk in that hope and say, you know what? This week, this month, this year, doesn't matter what's going on in my life. I need healing. I need miracle. I need a job that pays well. I need to get married for those who want to get married. Whatever it is that we need, we have faith in Jesus because Jesus is God, and he would never let us down. He would never fail us. And we should just hopefully put all your eggs in one basket. They said never put your head in one basket, but trust me, with Jesus you can, because if you put all your eggs in Jesus, you would never fail, basically. And that's a little encouragement that I suppose I can throw out to people and say, Jesus is the one. He's the one. There's no one else.
That's good. And I think it is important, and the reason why, as I said at the start, the reason why I kind of mainly looked at what Jesus said himself is because I want to kind of dispel that myth that floats around, that Jesus never makes these claims about himself, that Jesus never says that he is God or points to the fact that he is divine or whatever else, that ultimately it's humans who have come to this conclusion and passed it down and whatever else. I kind of wanted to dispel that. But for us as Christians and for us as believers who believers are going to be the kind of the main audience that are going to listen to this, it's important for us to really refresh ourselves on this, because ultimately as a Christian, especially when you've been a Christian a while, these kind of things, you kind of just go, I believe that Jesus is God. That's normal. I believe that Jesus is King, or Jesus is Lord, or whatever. We can just believe these things, say, I believe it. And that's great. That's wonderful. I'm not doubting the fact that you do believe it, but it's important for us to be able to have that rock solid foundation in the word to understand why we believe that it's not just the fact, it's not just blind faith, but there's facts, there's evidence that points us towards this. And for us, and that's why one of the reasons why we're doing this kind of series, looking at Jesus and these titles or these things that we've given him, or the scriptures give him and things like that, which points to the fact that Jesus is enough for who we are. The fact that Jesus is God is enough for our salvation, is enough. Amen. The fact that we can come to him freely, knowing that he is able to deliver us from all issues and problems that you were talking about, that Jesus can, and what we talked about this morning, that we can put our faith and our trust and our hope in this man, knowing that he is who that he says that he is. And that's why we really want to kind of drill this in. We want to hammer this home. We want to talk about these things because it's important. And so ultimately, I hope it doesn't become just like a thing of, I already know this, or I've been taught this before, or you know what I mean. This is like elementary. This is like foundational. I'm on the bigger stuff. I know much more. I hope it doesn't become that, because ultimately we can never become numb to the foundations. We can never become numb to the simple truths and the simple realities of God and Jesus and salvation and all that things. And it should encourage you, and I hope it's encouraged you afresh. And it's sort of it's really done something inside you, and hopefully, obviously, as we go along for the weeks, you'll continue to be blessed and you'll continue to be touched by what we say. But look, Taiwo, we appreciate you coming on. Everyone in the comments, give a round of applause to Taiwo. Say thanks to Taiwo for coming on. You did a good job. You were a little bit nervous, but you were a little bit nervous before we started, but you were great. You smashed it, honestly.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
you. Appreciate it.
And we'll be back the same time, the same place next week. I believe Warner will be back next week as well, so we'll be able to kind of dive into whatever he's going to be preparing, and obviously it'll be good. But if there's any other topics that you want us to look at, it could be related to this, it could be related to something you read in the Bible or something, or scripture or a passage or a book or a character, whatever it is, please put it in the comments. Please let us know. We'd love to kind of talk about it. Love to kind of sort of see what you're reading about, see what you're learning about, and kind of give our opinions, not our opinions, what the scripture says and things like that, and start a conversation. That'd be great. But if not, we'll see you at the same time, the same place next week.
Next week.
See you.
Good night, everyone.